City Talks with Reuben Abati.
Our guest today is Professor Emeritus Professor Banji Akintoye, the worldwide leader of Ilana Oodua. We're still expecting Professor Akintoye to join us, but before I see him here on the screen, you can phone in and make one or two comments about the late Yinka Udumaki, spokesperson of Afenifere and a great citizen of Nigeria, human rights activist, a man committed to the cause of justice and equity in Nigeria. The number you can call us on is 0700-1051-1051. And you can also leave comments on WhatsApp 090-991-64403. We could take one or two tributes before Professor Akintoye joins us.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, rather. Yes.
I take it up on the line, calling from away today. It is a Saturday, and I felt the pain you feel, and I'm sure a lot more people, millions of Nigerians who are progressive, feel the same way. The person of Yinka Udumaki is a great shock and a lover of truth and emancipation of the people along the length and breadth of this country. It's sad, but what can we say? There is sacrosanct, and it's an inevitable loss. We will pray that God will give the family the policy to bear this irreparable loss. And I hope that the spirit of, the spirit of progressivism that he stood for would continue to be with some other people and some of us. It's a sad day, but I don't know how to even describe it more because I'm not even happy myself. Honestly speaking, it's a sad day. So what can we say? Good morning.
Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you very much indeed. Do we have another caller on the line there, either on WhatsApp or Zoom or on?
Dr. Reuben, good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to City Talks.
Yeah, AB from Songo.
Okay.
I want to commiserate with the family of Yinka Udumaki. He's a man with a dogged fighter, a true nationalist, a man who has fearless, a man who is truthful and just, a man who has passion for this nation, and not only that, a man who desires to see the good and well of this nation. May his perfect soul rest in perfect peace. I don't know whether we can have any other somebody like Udumaki again, but I pray that we should have somebody like him again to take up the struggle of the Yoruba race. God bless Nigeria in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Hello. Well, if you're still joining us, we're still expecting Professor Banji Akintoye, the worldwide leader of Ilana Oodua. But our focus is going to be essentially the challenge of unity in Nigeria, the security situation in Nigeria. Only a few days ago, at an event, the president was calling for unity and saying that we're all better off together. And the vice president also was saying that, if the country were to divide, then people will probably need the visas to Kano. If Kano is still within West Africa, we probably will not need visa. But the vice president clearly was stressing the importance of national unity, particularly at a time when there is a lot of conflict in different parts of the country. And there are persons who have been saying that Nigeria is no longer working, and that other options should be considered. And we've had all kinds of ideas on the table. Persons calling for restructuring, persons calling for self-determination, persons, in fact, calling for outright secession. Because according to quite a number of people, the mistake of 1914, which is the amalgamation, is no longer sustainable. And there are persons who are even saying that the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, is entirely unacceptable. And in that regard, there are groups that are calling for what they have defined as, the people's constitution. So since 1960, we've been debating Nigeria. The whole objective has been how to make Nigeria work. And persons saying, well, are we even a nation? Shouldn't people just go their separate ways? It's unfortunate that this is where the country has found itself at this moment. And the questions to ask are as follows. Why is it that Nigeria is not working? What went wrong? How come Nigerians have not learnt lessons, particularly from the Civil War of 1967 to 1970? And what is the best way forward? How do we redeem the country, if it is possible? Many groups in Nigeria, particularly in the Southwest, are arguing that, look, the journey to redemption should start not tomorrow, but today. Not yesterday, but right now. The urgency of now in terms of redemption, and that the people have a responsibility to determine their own future and whether or not they still want to remain under this arrangement called Nigeria. These are some of the topical issues that we would have loved to discuss with Professor Akintoye, and when he joins us, there are issues that we can bring up. But while we wait for the arrival of Professor Akintoye, if there are persons who have certain views to express, we can start the conversation and then wait for Professor Akintoye to join us. Adeboyega Adedeji on Twitter here says, we will not die for our enemy to rejoice. Rest in peace, Mr. Yinka Udumaki. You will be greatly missed. May his soul rest in peace. That's from Adeboyega Adedeji. Thank you very much, Adeboyega Adedeji. And if you look at Twitter, Yinka Udumaki is trending right now at number 1, 4,969 tweets, on Twitter under Nigeria trends. Well, that shows, the popularity of the gentleman and his level of commitment, and how he was appreciated, how people appreciated his contributions to the making of Nigeria. Here is another message here from a phone number. Good afternoon, Dr. Reuben Abati. I'm shocked hearing this sad news about the death of Mr. Yinka Udumaki. May God rest his soul, grant him eternal rest, and give the family the fortitude to bear this great, irreplaceable loss. I'm Michael from Ikorodu. Thank you very much, Michael from Ikorodu. If we have any comments on the situation in Nigeria at the moment and the various calls for... Hello, I have a comment here via Zoom from Adewale Balogun. He says, Nigeria is a failed state and we have no better option than to call for a peaceful dissolution of the backward British project in a UN-supervised national referendum. So that's Adewale Balogun there calling for a national referendum. And then I've seen another comment here from a gentleman who is saying we are all muted. We can't contribute if we're muted. Well, if you want to make a contribution via Zoom, just indicate by waving your hand. We'll see it here. Yes, Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi. Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi, please go ahead. Hello, Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi, I can see your hand up. Could you please unmute your system? Okay.
All right. Yes. Doc, good morning, sir.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Please.
Yeah. First of all, let me just join others in mourning the death of Yinka Udumaki. His death reminds me of Yinka's comment, so to say, that the man died is he who keeps quiet, in the face of oppression. Udumaki was a man who never kept quiet. He was alive, all through his time on planet Earth. And even in death, he will be remembered for his legacies on the side of the people. And of course, it's also his death is one more reminder, of the attestation of William Shakespeare, on the fall of Iroquois. Shakespeare was who said, Yinka are men with all the elements fully mixed in them. And we can definitely say to the world at the end of the day that he was a man. He lived for others, and his legacies is definitely going to be everlasting. May he rest in peace. And if you permit me, Doctor, if I can just make a contribution on the subject matter for today, it comes back to what we've been talking over the years. It's often the case that when we talk about questions of secession, when we raise issues around the possibility of us continuing to live as one, it comes often when we have, a leadership that is problematic, a leadership that sort of pander to cleavages, a leadership that highlights, our fault lines. When we have that kind of situation, it reminds us, of our primary location, our primary belonging, either at the ethnic or the religious line. And of course, we have to make the point that this leadership is not necessarily central, not necessarily peculiar, maybe to presidential leadership, but a kind of leadership that permeates all the dimensions of our national life. And the question that comes therefrom is, what is the guarantee, for instance, that if we break away, if we have multiple regions at the end of the day, that we're not going to have a replication of all the downsides that we're presently having, in a larger Nigeria, in the regions that will come after we probably have broken away or gone to our different divides. What is that guarantee? And I would not just concerned about separation, agitation to go back to our region, to go back to our states, our ethnic divides and all of that, because, of a momentary frustration, from living in a collective Nigeria. Is there no better route in looking for how we can bring about bonding, how we can bring about harmony, rather than thinking of ways that will set us back, and enable us or propel us to begin again, something that will probably take us another 60 years to get around with. Those are the posers that I think we should also bear in mind while agitating, for separation. Dr. Abati, thanks for the audience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adeniyi. I see another hand up out there. Orule Ede Yoruba. I hope the pronunciation is correct, but Orule Ede Yoruba. If we could have your contribution, please. Hello? Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Adeniyi. Well, thank you very much. Very brilliant contribution out there. And I see George Akinola. Can we have George Akinola over to you, please? George Akinola.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Abati.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Right. Let me start by saying that I particularly respect you for coming up with this after the particular statement you made on Arise Television, a few days ago, which generated a lot of furor, among the Yoruba public. So I particularly am pleased that you have come up with this forum where most of us can come up and ventilate ourselves. Now, I can tell you that I'm the General Secretary of Ilana Oodua. And I'm the General Secretary worldwide of Ilana Oodua. And it's important that we trace the antecedents of whatever is happening today in Nigeria to its very roots. This particular problem started over 200 years ago when people that were not native to the environment presently called Nigeria, when they came in, the Fulani led by Madam Fodio. And this story is all over the whole place. They never owned land, they never had anything here, but they started with subterfuge and continued with a lot of trickery that led them to subjugate the large Hausa race. Right now, today, the Hausa race owns no land. They own nothing in the land that is ancestrally theirs. And when the Hausa was totally subjugated, these people continued to nurse the ambition that they want to subjugate other races. They tried this particular agenda against the Kanem Bonu people who repulsed them. They tried it against the Yoruba race, who, one way or the other, repulsed them decisively, but lost Ilorin to subterfuge, not to conquest. So now that particular train of thought on behalf of the Fulani is what is still played today. If we are in a marriage which you did not sign into with the rest of Nigeria, we have the right to opt out at a particular time when that marriage becomes tenuous. At this moment in time, that marriage is tenuous. Our people are being killed in the forests. Our farmers are being killed. Our children are being raped. Our ladies are being raped. Women, married women are being torn apart and raped. A lot of things are happening. Now, why would anybody ask us to continue to live in such a situation where that marriage has become very, very difficult to sustain? And that is the reason why what we are saying is self-determination for the Yoruba race. We're not talking about secession. There's a completely different line between, a separating line between the two thoughts. Secession as opposed to self-determination, which is enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations, is enshrined in the Charter of the ECOWAS, is in the African Union. So if we are saying we want self-determination, we have every right to demand it. We want to rule ourselves. We want to determine our own future, because what we have continued to say is that Nigeria is the impediment to Yoruba progress. And without Nigeria, Yoruba people would have soared beyond all levels in Africa and all over the world. I will rest my case for now, and I will expect that, I will still come up with other suggestions and contributions later, if you permit me. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you very much, George Akinola. Very brilliant contribution there. And you and I, there is no disagreement. I know that self-determination is the basic legitimate right of a people. And you just clarified it now clearly that there's a difference between self-determination and secession. And I think it's important for all of us, to keep this conversation going. The problem that I see is that some people, they think, they have the exclusive right to take a decision on behalf of other people. But we must discuss, we must converse. There shouldn't be a dictatorship in terms of opinion. And I really appreciate, the historical background that you have given and how you have tried to draw that distinction between some of the terms going about. And we need also to continue to inform the people in a very dispassionate, intellectually robust manner, and not, fight over, a matter that is of interest to all of us. I see another hand up there, Idris Aloma. Can we have Idris Aloma? Thank you, George Akinola. Thank you very much indeed. Idris Aloma, if you may just join us and make your contribution. Hello? Idris Aloma, yes, thank you for joining us. Please go ahead. Hello, Idris Aloma? Okay, if Idris Aloma is not ready, maybe we take a call here. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Comrade Obanago Mohammed Ibrahim, calling from New Koba.
Okay, thank you for joining us, comrade.
Thank you, sir. I have listened to the two other speakers, the four speakers, and I tend to align with them. But my dad, as a military officer, taught me about war, that anything that could bring about war or cause problem in the country, that I should be very, very careful about it. Because I have fought so many wars, including civil war in Nigeria. So one of my problems is this. Yes, I'm from Kogi State, the eastern part of Kogi State. And we know what we are seeing in the hands of our political leaders. The problem is not between you and I. It is those at the helms of affairs. Now, we that are agitating, all of us, look, this agitation is not just about the southwest or the southeast or whatever. It's across the federation. And the agitation is about what the political elites are doing to us. Now, should we go this way? Now, since all of us are worried about the situation, what can we do about our House of Reps members, our senators from our zones? How are we going to call them if truly they are ready to work with us? If truly they want this country to work? Why don't we call them? Are there 5, are there 6, are there 7? Call them and say, this is our position. Call those in the southeast and say, this is our position. If truly they are ready to, or they are not working with the other people who are oppressing us. So I think going that way will be of help to us than to take it the other way around. Good afternoon, sir.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your insights. We'll take another call. Someone else is on the line.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Reuben.
Thank you.
Have a back on the line. First of all, let me appreciate Dr. Adeni and now.
Yes, please go ahead. I'm sure he's listening. Hello? Oh, we lost that call. Maybe you'll probably call back. Well, I see so many hands up on Zoom. Maybe we should take Josephine Ashogbon. Josephine, please go ahead and make your contribution. Hello, Josephine, can you hear me? Hello, Josephine. Your line is still muted. If you could just go ahead with your contribution. Hello? Hello? Okay.
Yeah, can I continue?
Is that George?
Yes, I want to react to some of the statements made.
Okay, please go ahead. George Akinola.
All right. Thank you. This thing has gone beyond the purview of the National Assembly. There is a particular constitution that was written. That constitution was written by a select group of people that were not representative of Nigerians or of the ethnic nationalities that formed that form up the country called Nigeria. If you're going to write a constitution, that constitution must be representative. But even as at the time Obasanjo was sworn in 1999, that constitution itself was not known to Obasanjo or the people that were elected into governance. So that constitution is imposed. It tells a lie about itself. It says, we the people, when did we the people gather together? That we have solemnly and together come together to set up a constitution for ourselves. When did we do that? And when did we ratify it? So that constitution itself, Abilisho, is dead on arrival because it's telling a lie about itself. So for us to continuously evolve a nation, we must also subscribe to a constitution that we all jointly put together. And that constitution is what gave birth to the government of the day through an election. So where that constitution fails, the government of the day fails. So we must go back to, because we own the sovereignty, the ethnic nationalities own the sovereignty. We must go back to status quo ante and sit down together to decide whether or not we want to remain together. And that is what the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, has come up with. And we are not hiding anything. We are represented in the Southwest, in the Southeast, in the South-South, and in the Middle Belt. We say we want out of Nigeria. That for us, we wrote the federal government, we wrote the United Nations, we wrote everybody, for all of us to come together and decide on how to go.
Well, George, sorry to interrupt you. I see that Prof has joined us.
Yes.
I can see Professor Akintoye right there on the screen. And let me, on behalf of all of you who are listening to this program, welcome the worldwide leader of the Ilana, Oodua. I introduced him earlier and we started the conversation, but he's now here with us. Professor Akintoye, thank you very much for joining us. I understand how busy your schedule is, but I'm excited having this opportunity to have the conversation with you. Quickly, you said at a point that the Yoruba journey to redemption has started. Now, what is the nature and content of that journey for the benefit of our listeners who may not have listened to some of your lectures on that particular subject before now. Thank you for joining us, sir.
I greet you all. I'm glad to be among you. We are citizens of a very unique nation. That's the truth of the matter. It's not now that we are talking about leaving Nigeria or not leaving Nigeria. No, it has nothing to do with that. That's the basic fact that we are a people of a nation that is very unique. We have the records, and nobody is disputing those records, that we were in tropical Africa, the most urbanized civilization ever. And that, as one American professor of history has put it, our urbanism is ancient and legendary. And it makes us one of the most urbanized peoples on earth, more urbanized than many of the peoples of Europe at certain points in the history of the world. When the first European traders and so on came to the coast of West Africa in the 15th century, about 1470 AD, they were surprised to find that there was a people like the Yoruba. Their records show that our language was the language of trade along the coast of West Africa, all the way from Benin to what is now the Gambia. They were surprised that people were talking of great cities and towns in the interior of our country. One trader who visited Lagos in 1533 wrote that he was in a town of these people called, they called us all sorts of names, Odukumi and so on at that time, but we are Yoruba. That in the interior of their town, of their country, there are many cities that not far from Lagos, only about 10 leagues from the coast, there is a great city called Gebu, that's Ijebode, surrounded by a great wall. Now, modern researchers have done some research on the Ijebode wall. One Professor Darling from Scotland did some research on the Ijebode wall called the Redo in the 1990s. And his conclusion is that the Ijebode wall surrounds 20-something miles by 30 miles, and is one of the largest man-made structures of the ancient world. One of the largest man-made structures of the ancient world, and that today it is still visible in space. As of the time that he was writing that in 1533, Ijebode was already more than 500 years old. And Ijebode is not the oldest of our towns. Ilefe is the oldest of our towns. Other towns like Ilaorangun, Ketu, Shabe, Otun, Owo, and so on, are as old or older. So we are a people with a great history. We are a civilization building nation. The result is that when the white man came in the middle of the 19th century and began to spread Christianity and Western education, our country was better ready than any other part of tropical Africa to receive the education. Because for a missionary arriving in any part of Africa, you have to go into the bush and find a place to establish your mission station and then go and find the people, if there are any people around there. And so in Yoruba land, you just go to the Oba in the city I say, and introduce yourself to say you had come. You can. There is a photograph of the missionaries arriving in Oyo to greet their Alaafin in 1883. It's a great picture of large numbers of people, the Oba himself on his throne, and the missionaries in front of him, to greet him and so on. So that's who we are. There is no other place in Africa, in tropical Africa, except perhaps Ethiopia, the Kingdom of Ethiopia, on the Abyssinian Mountains.
Prof, I would like you to comment on the view that has been expressed by...
So, in the 20th century, we immediately began to show these capabilities. That's what showed up in the time of Chief Awolowo in the 1950s. Chief Awolowo just gave us the kind of government, civilization building government that we had known for thousands of years. That's the truth of the matter. And now here we are in this country where people are coming forward to say they are going to exterminate the rest of us because
looks like there is a problem with the connection there, but Professor Akintoye is still making his contribution.
We do not belong in the same company with these people. In Nigeria into barbarism. We are not going to have decided we'll take our own and leave of God. Or some people say there will be war. We are trying not to make war happen because we don't want to brutalize anybody. But if they make war happen, they will be sorry. That's the situation. We are going to liberate our country and then we are going to have our own civilized country. In that country, we are not going to be driving foreigners out. We are not going to be no. Even the Fulani, we are not going to be driving them out. Those of them who want to stay and be part of our country will be welcome to stay, but they will live under our laws. And some of the laws will make it possible for them to settle down and do their business. But nobody in Yoruba land will be rearing cattle around the bush.
Prof, a few days ago, the president and the vice president were talking about unity, keeping Nigeria together. There's also been a lot of talk about national integration. How did we get to this point that many Nigerians are now talking about sovereignty in their own regions? What exactly happened?
It is as I have written in a number of places, in a number of books.
Hello, Prof. Can you hear me?
Having many produces problems are not inevitable. And the dominant factor now destroying Nigeria is the Fulani insistence upon being the dominant, the dominating factor in Nigeria in every area of life. They have taken over the government. They have
there is a problem with the audio connection there, and Prof was making a very interesting point about the
yeah, I'm back now.
Okay,
are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, clearly, Prof. Yes.
Yeah. They have decided that they have taken over the government of Nigeria. They are appointing their men to head every important department of government, especially the security forces. Last night, somebody was counting to me They are the head of the army, the head of the police, the head of the security services, the head of the secret service, the head of the customs department, the head of the immigration department, the head of the particular wing of the army, and even the head of the navy, where they know nothing about it, where they have no contact with the sea. And so that's another thing. That's one thing. But it's not as disastrous, because if they were doing that, we can still manage our affairs. But then they have given us a constitution in which the federal government, dominated by them. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you, Prof.
Yeah, in which the federal government, dominated by them, is the real rulers of Nigeria. Under the Constitution of 1999, there are 98 items of control and authority and power in Nigeria. 68 of those items are under the federal government exclusively. The remaining 30 are under the federal government and the state governments concurrently, with the proviso that if the federal government and the state government clashes over any, the state government must surrender and the federal government must take precedence. And that's it. So the government is entirely a Fulani government, and the federal government. And people abuse our governors, they say, but really they have no power to do much. That's the truth of the matter. And then, upon top of all this, now they must subdue all of us violently. They are pouring in their militias and indoctrinated cattle herders to come and destroy farms and kill families and kidnap people and rape women, and they are doing it in all parts of Yoruba land. And they have planted terrorist gangs in forests all over Yoruba land to do havoc upon Yoruba population. Large numbers of our farmers have abandoned their farms, and we are now facing the danger of serious food shortage in Yoruba land. No, the answer really to all this, and they are saying that they are ready to fight this war for hundreds of years, if necessary.
But Prof,
one of their leaders said to me and Chief Adebanjo and a group of us when we visited them in Ife, he said, well, God is the owner of all the land. In the beginning of time, God gave your father Oodua the land that you now call Yoruba land. But God has never abdicated the ownership of the land. And he can take the land now and give it to another people.
But
yeah.
But Prof, I would like to ask
you, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question about building consensus around the subject of Yoruba self-determination or Yoruba sovereignty, as some people call it. I see many groups out there, and you are connected, in fact, with some of them. You've been leader of the Yoruba World Congress. You are one of the leaders of Afenifere. But there are so many groups. Youth Global Alliance. What's the effort being made to build consensus among the people?
Hello,
Prof.
Yeah, in the history, yes, in the history of human groups in the world, it is not possible for any movement to encompass all of the people at the same time. It's not possible. It has never happened. When a group of young men led by a young man called Theodore Herzl started in the last decades of the 19th century to propose that the Jews should have a separate country of their own in the world. Most Jews of that time opposed it. If Theodore Herzl and his group were coming to Britain, the Jews in Britain, most of them, especially the rich men, owners of banks, owners of newspapers, and so on, will make a public statement that they don't want Theodore Herzl and his group to come to Britain because that will cause trouble for them. The same thing in France, the same thing in Russia, the same thing in Germany. Yeah. But the movement expanded little by little until in the end, a virile group, not all the people not all Jews, but a virile group, then got the United Nations to accept the idea of a Jewish nation. So no. Nobody can ask us to say that all of the Yoruba people agree to what we are saying. It is not possible, and it will never happen. Even till the day we have the country, there will still be people among us who don't buy it. That's all. So the important thing is that those who are doing it must have courage and be ready to give everything for it. That's all, and keep doing it until more and more people see see that it is good and support them until the day of the arrival of the new country. That's all. So the idea, some people say, who gave you the mandate to be talking like this for the Yoruba people? My answer to that is every Yoruba child has a mandate to say what he wants to happen to his Yoruba nation. He doesn't need to take any excuse or permission from anybody. God already gave him that permission by making him a member of the Yoruba nation. That's all.
But Prof, the Yorubas have invested a lot in the Nigerian project. If eventually we have a Yoruba nation, Oodua nation, how about the cost of the investment over the years in the Nigerian nation?
What is the investment that we have in Nigeria that is more important than our existence? The Yoruba nation is heading towards destruction now, under the battering of this barbarism from the bush. Don't let us deceive ourselves. Yoruba nation stands the danger of total destruction, of total barbarizing in the hands of the people who are now battering at our nation. Our farmers are fleeing from their farms. Our people are becoming refugees in foreign countries, and so on. And we are talking of investment in Nigeria. What kind of investment is that? Yes, we have invested a lot. It is this belief that we could civilize other people that brought us into the Nigeria in the first instance. When Lugard and his officials were rampaging around in 1913 to say that they were going to do amalgamation, there were people in Lagos who said, don't let us join these people. The great lawyer, Sapara Williams, was the leader of such groups. Said, don't let us join them. These people are not civilized. They are not like us. We don't know their culture. They don't know our culture. We don't know their language. They don't know our language. We live in cities and towns. They live in the bush. So don't let us join their amalgamation. But our Yoruba people who said, and they were the majority, let us join them. We are the civilized ones, and we will take our civilization to them. We will raise them up in the world. That's our duty. When God has blessed you, He wants you to use your blessing to bless other people. So now we will bless these other people, and they will become as civilized as we are. That's 1914. This is 2021. We have not raised them up in civilization. Chief Aula has spent his whole life preaching free education for all the children, and so on, etc. But there are people in the north who are saying, what does it mean? We are not. He's talking about Yoruba nation. You Yoruba, listen. I will tell you a story.
Yes.
I was a member of the National Antiquities Commission in 1974 to 78. Sometime in 1977 or so, we held a meeting of the National Antiquities Commission in Sokoto, and they were going to take us on a tour of Sokoto to Brining, Kebbi, etc., etc. And they gave us FGN cars. The Sokoto, the big Sokoto dignitary who sat with me in one car. It was they called us commissioners, one car to two commissioners, and he and I were the two occupants of the car, driven by a federal government driver. Before we left the city of Sokoto, he asked me, "Oh, young professor, I hear that you are one of the boys talking with Chief Awolowo to give free. I thought he was asking a question. I didn't know that it was a hostile question. So I excitedly, happily said, yes, sir. And he said, so you are one of the people who will put me in prison. So I said, sir, what, how? Prison, how? He said, because we are being told here that anybody who refuses to send his children to school will be put in prison. So I said, no, sir, nobody is talking about putting anybody in prison. All that we are saying is that education is the birthright of every Nigerian child, no matter where they are born. And that the government of Nigeria has the duty of providing the resources for them to be given those schools, that education. And then he laughed and said, but you Yoruba people, you are so arrogant. You think that what is good for you is good for everybody else. What makes you think that because you want education, therefore we too want education? That's the truth of the matter. We are pushing on people things that they don't want. For continuing to make sacrifices on behalf of Nigeria. We have done enough. We have given enough. It is time to do something for ourselves and give a lot to ourselves. 2 days ago, a group of kids circulated 2 photographs. One, the photo of a great city with beautiful skyscrapers, and another town, the picture of a city street, enormously gorgeous city street. And they said, that is our Yoruba nation of 2024. That's what our young people are already dreaming about. Other people are dreaming of cows in the bush and killing of people in the bush. And counting themselves in the forest to terrorize the neighboring farmlands. Whereas our own boys are already dreaming of skyscrapers, of the greatest of technology and beauty and in this world. Listen, we are not the same. It is time for us to do that. And we need to do it also in the interest of the black race. We are the beacon, and we must now stand out to show that light clearly to the black race, to make the black race at last proud in this world.
Well, Prof,
we must not allow ourselves to sink and perish with Nigeria. It's as simple as that.
Well, Prof, I've been getting some reactions on the screen here. Shion Abimbola says, God bless your wisdom, Prof. Rosemary Oladapo says, Babawa, you spoke our mind. And Rosemary again added another comment. She says, we shall not sink. But before
Thank you. Thank you, my son.
Yes, sir. Before I take more reactions from the participants in this conversation, what do you think, Prof, of the view expressed by some people that the crisis Nigeria faces now is this way because of the failure of the Buhari government? And perhaps...
No, it's not. Yeah, Buhari government, well, the climate always comes to a development. Whatever is going steadily and it is not resisted will ultimately produce a peak and a climax. If you are sick and nobody is taking care of the sickness, and it will reach a point at which the sickness will then take your life. Buhari is the peak point of the crisis that has been befalling Nigeria since independence. Since the British manipulated everything and put the Fulani as the rulers of Nigeria in 1960, Nigeria has been sinking steadily. Listen, only about 8 days before, even as Nigeria was celebrating independence, there were people who were plotting against the Yoruba. And why were they plotting against the Yoruba? Because this Yoruba, they're always in the forefront. So we must bring them down. Yes, and destroy their vaunted towers. That's the way they used to put it. 8 days after independence, one of these men spoke and asked a question on the floor of the Nigerian House of Representatives. There was no cause for the question. No, it was the session had ended, and the speaker just asked any other question, any other business. And this man stretched up his hand and asked a question. Mr. Speaker, what will happen to a region where Law and order has broken down. That was the plan they were discussing about Western Nigeria, about the Western region. They were going to make law and order breakdown there. They carried out a covert operation that recruited our very brilliant leader, Akintoye, into a plot against the rest of the leadership. And then with the British support, with British assistance. And our Western region went into a crisis. The federal government hurried in and imposed a sole administrator. And then ended up putting Chief Awolowo in prison. And we have been sinking further and further and further ever since. Get it straight. Nigeria can never become a good place, a place of prosperity for the Yoruba people. It won't happen. The rest won't let it happen. I'll tell you a story. A church invited me to one of their weekend programs. Since I returned home, a church invited me to a weekend program. They call it their Shiloh annual weekend program. And my wife and I had to rent a room in the premises of the church. Another family that rented a room in the same premises next to our own happened to have been a family that had just retired from abroad, from Germany, and were attending the same program. So we talked and talked and talked. And then they told me a very typical story. Now this Yoruba man, no, young man with big marks on his cheeks, had somehow studied and become a master in the world in some area of technology. I can't remember what he called it. And when Abacha was ruler of Nigeria, some people read an article about this man and his enormous prodigy as leader in the world in that area of technology. And they went and showed it to the head of state, and they finally decided, let's invite him. Maybe he can bring this type of thing to Nigeria and so on. So they came, he and his wife came, we were invited, and a party was held to welcome them. The head of state himself was there sitting in a chair. It was a cocktail party. And as they stood around talking, his wife came to him at some point and said, Olu, they will be you. Her husband was angry with her. Said, but yes, it is true. I have been saying that, but they will be you. So when they left, the wife told him, you know, I speak a little bit of Hausa. I had the highest men standing around Abacha. This is what they were saying. This man is a Yoruba man too. So there is nothing great or good that we are looking for people. It is all Yoruba in everywhere. What are we going to do about these Yoruba people? So his wife said, no, if we come to work here, they will murder you. So they went back to their Germany and worked there until he retired and they came home. That's when I met them. Listen, don't deceive yourself. The educated mind wants to see beauty in everything. We want to see order in everything. In Nigeria, there's no such order of beauty. That's simple. So let us reconcile ourselves to the truth and behave the truth. Don't let us deceive ourselves or deceive our people.
On that note, Prof, we would like to take one or two calls. If you are just joining us, our guest is Professor Banji Akintoye, Professor Emeritus, academic, scholar, historian, writer, and worldwide leader of Ilana Oodua. Please, if you have your call, Prof is still with us. If you're on the line, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Abati, thank you very much. You have to look it back. Baba no do I can't answer. Yeah. I want to ask a question. The question is that at the end of the day now, what will be the position of our traditional rulers? Because on the present arrangement, I think our traditional rulers have been relegated. They are not really the way they should be under a normal civilized Yoruba environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prof, the role of our traditional rulers. Hello? Prof, are you still with us? Hello? Okay, let's see if there is another caller on the line so that Prof can take the questions together. Hello, who's on the line? Your name, your location, and your question or comment. Okay, we have another caller. Yes, please go ahead. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Abati, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, your guest.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Darlington speaking. In fact, your guest is speaking the current trend. My worry here is that those who prefer to eat the crumbs from the master's table, will they listen to him? Dr. Abati, will they listen to him? Imagine how many years we have wasted trying to please a set of people who don't want us to move forward. This unity is unnegotiable. Is it not benefiting some people? Is that not why they are saying it? When are we going to use our education to improve our lives? Dr. Abati, a professor is in Abuja as vice. What relevance is in that government? They did not even hand over to him. After all the education, after all the efforts, we surrendered it to a people who don't value education, and this is where we are now. So when are we going to wake up? All those people who are making noise, Nigeria is better when we are together. Some countries in Europe, they are not up to 4 million in population. Their GDP is 10 times bigger than that of Nigeria. And we are talking of what are we good at? In this age and time, the only thing we are celebrating is incompetence, nepotism. And we say we are going to move forward. Prof, please speak that language, speak it louder, let some people hear you. Let us stop deceiving ourselves. If not, our children will inherit this nonsense. We are not moving anywhere. Just imagine.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Darlington there. I think we lost connection with Prof, but we were really privileged to have had him on the show today. And I'm sure that he has provided a lot of food for thought. I think we should just draw the curtain this week, or do we take one more call? Because I see the dashboard blinking there. Hello? 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 Anyway, I would like, on behalf of everyone who has been part of this program today, to thank Professor Banji Akintoye very much, worldwide leader of Ilana Oodua, for taking time out to discuss very serious issues with us. And I've seen many of you out there who joined us via Zoom saying, thank you, sir, thank you, Daddy, thank you for speaking our mind. And indeed, very profound contribution there. Well, we shouldn't expect anything less from a man of his stature. And I'd like to thank all of you who called in and those who reach out to us on Zoom, Twitter, and Facebook. But remember, the conversation does not end here. You can reach out to me on my social media account at Abati1990, both on Instagram and Twitter, and at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, no need to worry. You can visit the YouTube page, City1051, to watch the entire show shortly. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And don't forget also to tune in next week at noon for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is Reuben Abati. The show was produced by Adedoja Allen, Abiodun Odunton, Ayodamola Oludara, Oluwaseun Adetutun, and Olanrewaju Onepede Jr. Thank you very much for listening. See you again next week.
City Talks with Reuben Abati.